Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. I don't know about you, but I found that during this pandemic, the shelter in place, I'm busier than ever. If that applies to you, then we truly appreciate you putting other things to one side and joining us while we do this webinar. We'll take about 45 minutes or so, 45 minutes to an hour. And I'm very excited with the topic, which is what's new in TigerGraph Distributed Cloud. As I'm sure everybody in the audience knows, we've had a graph database as a service available for several months. And then at the tail end of 2019, we released we announced our upgrades to that initial version, which we are calling Distributed Cloud. We'll go into more detail in this webinar as to what all of that means. And that's the core of our presentation, but we also have a special treat ahead, which is we will review our COVID-19 starter kit. TigerGraph is doing what we can, leveraging our technology to help in the fight against COVID-19. So we'll provide a demonstration of that starter kit. Next slide, please. So I'm David Ronald. I'm Director of Product Marketing at TigerGraph. You can see details of my background here. I've been with the company for just over 8 months. Next slide. But much more importantly is today's presenter, Emma Liu, and I'm very privileged to just share a few details about Emma's background. She's a very accomplished individual. She has been with TigerGraph since 2018, August, I think it was, 2018, where she's been designing and managing TigerGraph's platform and deployment options in cloud platforms, along with container technology. No easy task. Prior to joining TigerGraph, Emma worked at MarkLogic, where she was in product management, and Oracle, where she was a senior software engineer. Emma holds a master's in Engineering Systems Division, Technology and Policy program from MIT, and a bachelor's of science from Harvey Mudd College. And before we get rolling, just some housekeeping issues or housekeeping items. Your phones are muted, that's standard practice, but we do want to hear from you. We'd like this to be as interactive as possible. So don't be shy. At any time, if you have a question for us, please submit it in that Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. The webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website shortly after the webinar concludes. I would say we're very quick about getting this done. So in 2 to 3 hours, you can check our website to see if the webinar is there, if you are eager to view it again, listen to it again. And in addition, we will send an email to everybody in the audience with a link to the archived webinar, along with the slides and other items which Emma feels would be helpful to you as you're learning more about Graph and TigerGraph specifically. Last but not least, this final bullet's probably not required any longer. Zoom is very mature. But if you do have any issues, please contact us and we will do our very best to resolve issues in a timely manner. Next slide, thanks. So here's an outline of today's webinar. It's going to be in 4 parts. Emma will do the bulk of the presenting. Section 1 is we will address or present our solutions to the typical top concerns people have about running production workloads in cloud. We will then go through updates to TigerGraph Cloud, which are in the distributed cloud version. As I mentioned at the top, that's the latest version of our cloud product. We will run through the starter kits, and as I mentioned, we'll focus on the COVID-19 starter kit. That's obviously very, very important in this current pandemic. And then we will do a deep dive into TigerGraph features. So that's an overview of what we have in stock. For people who are relatively new to Graph, I'll just say that Gartner, which is obviously a leading market research firm, has identified graph analysis as possibly the single most effective competitive differentiator for organizations pursuing data-driven operations and decisions after the design of data capture. And Gartner also estimates that the market for a graph database will grow rapidly at about 100%, through the next 2 to 3 years, making it one of the fastest growing technology markets. And Gartner has also named graph as one of the top 10 data and analytics technology trends, putting graph quite high up that list, I think in the 4th position. However, prior to our release of the graph product, which was the first of any vendor besides Amazon and Cosmos DB announcing their product, it would take days to get started, weeks to build a proof of concept, and then months or years to enter production, if at all. And the ability to do so was limited to a niche group of more technical individuals and business users and analysts who didn't have that technology savviness were typically unable to leverage and benefit from graph. And so we decided to launch our graph product, which, Emma, next slide, means that now it takes minutes to get started with graph. It takes just hours to build a proof of concept. And if you want to move that into production, that typically takes just a few days. And in addition, we're providing a wide number of starter kits, over 20, that enable newbies, people who haven't got that deep technical knowledge, to get started. And we'll go into more detail on what these starter kits looks like. And in addition, Emma will demonstrate them. So as of today, thousands of people are already building applications using TigerGraph Cloud, and they're able to do so easier and faster than ever before. And I think with that, I'll pass things over to Emma.
Thank you, David. I'm very excited to talk about the new features in Distributed Cloud. And since we launched the TigerGraph Cloud version 1 last September, and we actually launched the enhanced version of TigerGraph Cloud, which is named the Distributed Cloud, this January. And in the past half year, we've seen tremendous interest in using graph analytics through cloud. So in this new edition, we kept most of the old features and added even more features. The key difference is the first version, TigerGraph Cloud, allows for TigerGraph single server provisioning. And the second version, which is Distributed Cloud, allows for provisioning distributed TigerGraph cluster to scale to terabytes of data set and also provide high availability option through replication. Just to look at the features further, most of these features are inherited from the version 1 TigerGraph Cloud platform. And now we're adding, it is definitely easy, fast, and flexible. TigerGraph Distributed Cloud has the easy control from the cloud portal, and you can start, stop, terminate on demand. And the pricing is pay as you go. And we meter your usage by seconds. And with this start, stop, and terminate, it's actually very easy for you to test and develop and also use the system non-continuously and only built for what you use for. And the second part is TigerGraph Cloud Solutions inherits the on-prem TigerGraph Graph Studio SDK and making it very easy to develop the graph schema and load data and write queries. It's also faster to admin as you change your user password through the admin portal, and also obtain the secrets for generating tokens for your query RESTful endpoints. I want to point out that GSQL Web Shell is a feature that's coming in a week or two in our platform that's actually helping you to have even more tool to do development. And the third part is the cloud solutions actually provide the access to the application development through RESTful endpoints via port 9000. And of course, we have out-of-box use cases. As we mentioned earlier, these graph starter kits are pre-packaged with sample data set and queries. And we have been adding a lot of new graph starter kits. Now we've increased from the 10+ graph starter kits last September to about 20+ out-of-box starter kits for the graph application. So our goal is to really add many use cases as we see from the different verticals, so that it's very, very easy for everyone to leverage the graph analytics. TigerGraph Distributed Cloud is also designed with the secure, robust, and reliable requirements in mind. The two important new features introduced in the distributed cloud is the option to provision the distributed cluster for large data set, and also the highly available system for continuous service in your IT stack. And we also went through the SOC 2 compliance audit to guarantee that as a service organization, we implement trusted process and controls to govern your data. And we're currently going on audit process on a continuing basis. If you would like to read the report, please let our sales team know, and we can send you the SOC 2 report privately. Again, so we have the robust setup with a built-in backup restore. By default, it's making backups on a daily basis, and you can choose to make the backup weekly or monthly. So we keep 7 copies of backups for the current version. The restore feature also allows you to restore from the same solution and from different solutions in your account. We definitely use the latest cloud security best practice. We leverage the AWS security features such as virtual private cloud concept to provide a secure and isolated environments for different users. Each user has its own VPC and for backups. We also implement the encryption in transit and then the rest to ensure that we're following the security best practice. Here is the logo from the audit authority for SOC 2. So you can get the reports if you contact us. So TigerGraph Cloud is definitely managed fully and also maintained and supported 24/7. And we follow a very agile development and upgrade schedule. So we upgrade to the latest TigerGraph versions and also implement security and system patches as they come at the earliest time possible. In the coming weeks, we're upgrading all of the starter kit base images to the next feature release, TigerGraph 2.6. Cloud Portal also upgrades with new enhancements in a regular basis. So with thousands of developers and business level users, we really listen to our users' feedback, and in the past, I would say 8 months, and also providing more usability enhancements in our portal. And on average, we're also rolling out the new starter kits and instance types and regions. And we're rolling out on average about 3 new starter kits every month. And of course, last but not least, we're going to expand into other cloud platforms as backend. So the current platform is based on AWS public cloud, but soon in the first half of this year, we'll be on Azure, and later half will be on GCP. Just remember that TigerGraph itself is cloud agnostic. You can run your data anywhere you want, and there's no vendor locking. So TigerGraph Cloud's mission is to provide this cloud agnostic experience to our customers. So let's go a little bit deeper into starter kits. It's super exciting to see that many of our customers are using TigerGraph in all different verticals. And to make it easier for new users and customers to leverage the full benefits of TigerGraph, we incorporated 2 important features for our cloud platform. It is not only fully managed database as a service, which provides the latest TigerGraph database additions, but also packages these example graph use cases into starter kits. To remind everyone again, a graph starter kit includes the prepackaged sample data set and graph schema, and also some example queries. So you can actually modify and expand to your own usage. It's really simple to sign up on TG Cloud IO, and you can use the free tier to learn about these graph use cases. Just to reiterate our mission, we're really trying to make graph databases and analytics for everyone. So the starter kits is one of the approach that we help our users to get there. So these are the starter kits that are available in the initial cloud releases. So there were about 10 plus starter kits to capture the use cases in different industry. And we've seen that the very popular ones are including like Customer 360, entity resolution, and also we see a lot of anti-fraud and anti-money laundering use cases. You can definitely take a look at these use cases. These are some of the new starter kits that we included the first half of this year, including cybersecurity, data lineage, which kind of goes with the current trend of data governance, as well as machine learning use cases. And we also included personalized, hyper-personalized recommendation engine 2.0. And this month, we added these 6 starter kits. Most of them, well, COVID-19 starter kit comes from the current, some of the South Korean data set that we got. And then there are 2 in-database machine learning starter kits that you can take a look and how TigerGraph is doing in-database machine learning and training. And the last 3 are the graph algorithm starter kits that you can start using on the example data set. So all of these have different webinars to cover in detail. I'm just going to go over some high-level features of these starter kits in this webinar. So just a little bit deeper into the COVID-19 starter kit. So we're super excited that we're able to get this starter kit very soon in our platform, and you can use and experiment with this starter kit on the platform for free. So our developer community are also making more dashboards to show the graph analytics with many interested developers and data scientists around the world. So just to make things easier, it is already released so that it's easier for everyone to collaborate. And this starter kit does not only contain the data set, but also some graph schema and quite a few example queries. So you can definitely add more queries you would like to investigate to the starter kit. So graph database is definitely the easiest way to organize COVID-19 infection data and also tracking and monitoring the spread of the disease. All of the data set for patients and geo and time data are a really natural fit for a network and graph. Graph algorithms such as community detection and also deep link analysis can quickly help identify hubs of infection and also super spreader. So with these patients' path and also geo-time data, you can definitely trace people who are spreading the virus and identify who are close to this super spreaders and alert them. Of course, you can also build a sophisticated model to predict medical resource demand and facilitate allocations such as ICU beds and ventilators. So the screenshot here demonstrates kind of the graph exploration for the South Korean dataset in TigerGraph's Graph Studio. We also included example queries such as most infections, where you can find the person who infected the largest number of people, and infected by. You can identify all the people infected by the same person, and also geo-contact tracing. So the data set is from South Korean Center for Disease and Control. It is a subset of the whole disease infection data. They were organized in kind of a relational table CSV format, and we mapped them into a graph schema. So all the customers' name are actually masked by a ID. As an example, using TigerGraph can really help find long infection path using the deep link analysis. So this features a multi-hop analysis, and TigerGraph as a distributed scalable database can really handle more than 10 hop relationship very efficiently and performantly. If you're using a relational database, it may take a while to really query using multiple joins. With that, I'm going to go into the platform and show you some of the new updates of the portal, as well as COVID-19 and one of the in-database machine learning graph starter kits. All right, let me go back to this. This is actually the TigerGraph Cloud portal, and you can see it's tgcloud.io. And with here, you can see the dashboard, and you can finding what the different solutions you're having, and also the total number of solutions I've provisioned, and also the current balance and unused credits. Going to my solution, I just want to quickly show you the creating solution workflow. And take a look at the first step is selecting a starter kit. And now we have more than 20 starter kits that you can choose. And we also have tags for different type of starter kits. For example, geospatial, graph algorithm, we just added these. You can take a look. And also machine learning, we have 3 different machine learning use cases here. 2 of them are in database machine learning, and one of them is for graph feature extraction and also training the data outside of the platform. All right, let me just choose this and do a quick free tier and 100 gig. And you can keep the password here and also customize ML demo webinar. All right, submit. All right, so this is actually a pretty quick way to provision one starter kit with TigerGraph underneath. And this instance actually is a free instance. So it takes usually about 2 to 3 minutes for this single server to be provisioned. I already provisioned the COVID-19 beforehand. So let's just go into this single server COVID-19 starter kit. So you can connect to our Graph Studio from the portal. And here you can see that this is our Graph Studio SDK. And you can go through design schema here. This is the South Korean data set that we mapped into this graph schema here. There's patient, infection case, and country, travel event, city, and all these interesting vertex type we're using. And also we modeled these relationship between the different vertex. And in the platform, you can map the data to graph in this step. We already pre-mapped for you. And also loading the data. So currently, since I pre-prepared this demo, so I already loaded data, but this is one of the 2 steps you need to do when you start a starter kit, that just start loading the data. And we're currently loaded here, and you can actually see the stats here for the total vertex and edge number. On this step, you can explore the graph, and let's say pick 5. Voila, you can see all of these different vertex type, and click on the different patients, and you can see, okay, there is the information related to it. And let's go to the write queries. This is where you can install the GSQL queries and also execute these queries and get the results. Let's go to this edge crawl query. And let me run this query. So this is basically a query that you can show some of the patients, and then also we can track through different location where where they get infected and how each patient is tracing to the other. Let's just run this edge crawl. Let me expand result here. So it's very fast and we already got the results. And now let's just zoom in on this. All right, I think it is getting to this edge. Here. As you can see here, there is one of the location that's actually one of the church that's in infection case that's in South Korean data set. And you can see that it's linked to a lot of patients. And then each of the patient then has other travel events. For example, this patient, you can see that, okay, it got infected in this church event, and then also go to other traveling events. This is a geolocation travel event, and then it infected other patients. And in this graph, you can actually trace many of these contact tracing and through the geolocation, also time. So this is very interesting. You can go through the different edge and look at the entire path. Let me just collapse this. And this is actually another interesting query here that you can look at some infection subgraph. Let's just run this query. We can take this sample parameter, for example, patient, this number, this patient. When we input this, you can find all of the infections and also the potential infections by this patient. Let's just run the query here. And again, so the data set is here. This is the one that we chose. And you can definitely see that how it's infecting, particular other patients here, and how other patients is going through the geolocation travel event and going through the entire network. So this patient infected the entire network that we were seeing here. It's all connected, and you can go through many hop relationship in our graph. All right, let me just collapse this. And also, you can list the patients by the infected, list all the patients that's infected by a particular patient. All right, let's choose this sample data set. Run the query here. This is a JSON result that actually tells you all the infected patients by this super spreader here. All right, so there are more queries here that you can play around. Now, let me just switch back to the cloud portal here. And you can see that actually the one that I just started got provisioned, the ML anti-fraud starter kit. But I do want to go to this recommendation in database machine learning recommendation starter kit. So I already provisioned this before the demo. So let me just connect to the Graph Studio for this TigerGraph starter kit and solutions. And this is actually a user movie recommendation data set. It's pretty simple. The schema is, there's a user and movie, and different user will rate the movies differently. And with the rating, we'll be able to recommend the different movies in this for a particular user using machine learning algorithm. So here again, you can map the data to graph and load the data. You can see the stats here for the different vertex and edge types, and then explore the graph here. Pick random 5 users and movie. You can see some of these connection here. But the interesting thing here is the right queries. So this started because actually we had a previous webinar, so definitely there are a lot more technical details and also explaining the algorithm and steps in the other webinar. But I do want to show that we wrote a README here, and you need to execute different queries by sequence so that you can train this data and also test the result and also do the recommendation. I actually did one round before. So one of the instruction here is if you want to retrain the model, you need to reload the data. So let me just go back to the loading data section and to kind of load the fresh data so that I can retrain the model. See, this is finished, but let me just reload the data. It takes probably 30 seconds. And yeah, currently it's pending and pending. Okay, finished. Okay, pretty fast because it's not a huge data set. Let me just go to write queries again, go to README. And what README tells you is to train the latest. So this is actually using latent factor model. And if you want to play with it, just run the queries below in sequence. Split data, normalization, initialization, and training. And then to test the model, do the test and recommend. Let me try to follow this. Split data. Let's run this one. Okay. Second is normalization. Let's run this. All right, that's easy. And initialization. Let's run this. And there's a default query parameter already there. Run the data again. And go here is training. So this is a training process. And we did put some default parameter here for you to try. And now we're doing the in-database machine learning training this data set. So it takes probably 20 seconds. Okay, it's actually less than 20 seconds, about 3 seconds. And you can see that there's the scoring and training and validation. All right, so the model is trained. So now we're going to test the model and use it for recommendation. Let's do test. And let's see, use user 28, run this query. All right, you can see, okay, we're actually comparing the real rating of this user and then using our, the machine learning model, we have another, predicted rating here. You can kind of compare like these two, right? So there's different data here. And then now we can do the recommendation step, right? And run the query again. Let's do 28. Okay, so these are some of the movies that, recommended through this model that was the predicted rating. So this is a very simple workflow to demonstrate, our platform is very versatile, and also GSQL queries, as you can see here, is Turing complete, that it can do these type of in-database machine learning training and also validation. Of course, the other one that I started, you can also use the platform to do graph feature extraction. So that's the other way of leverage us for data science projects. Okay, let me just go back to the presentation. This is, part of the demo, but I'm going to continue to the next part, which is, going to some of the details in terms of how we're doing the distributed cloud in terms of architecture. I'm going to like kind of focus on two features in this presentation. The first one is, how we're doing the distributed cluster and high availability here. So the distributed system and high availability really kind of enables you to have, the horizontal scalability and also have the continuous service for your production instance. So there's a long list of features really to support the security and production requirements. And these two are pretty important if you are thinking about how to scale and how to run your production workload in a secure and high available way. And the distributed system allows you to kind of scale to large data set. And in TigerGraph, we use replication for you to have a highly available TigerGraph installation. So HA here stands for high availability, and it is a generic term describing a computer system which has been architected to have higher level of operational performance. So with all these two features, we're really trying to make it easy for you to set up scalable graph database. And also it's really optimal architecture for modern cloud computing for your on-demand data growth. So we're the only distributed graph database as service currently on the market. And with these two features, you can really have a good production environment for your graph analytics. Well, first of all, I actually just want to go back to the basic and just talk about the on-prem installation for our one single TigerGraph cluster. So you need kind of sequence of operations to provision the multiple machines and also install TigerGraph on each and ensure the networking works within a cluster. And for TigerGraph system with the HA setup, usually a cluster of server machines uses replication to provide the continuous service when one or more servers are not available for or some of the service components fail. So the default HA configuration actually has replication factor of 2, meaning that a fully functioning system maintains 2 copies of the data stored on the separate machines. And of course, on-prem, you can also have advanced HA setup. Users can get like a higher replication factor. So this is kind of a simple diagram for a distributed replicated system. You can see that, okay, we have one data set and we partition into 3. And we have each of the partition, we also have a replica 2. So in total, there's 6 nodes that host this distributed and HA system. Now, in TigerGraph Distributed Cloud, so the cloud backend actually take care of all the process to set up a distributed system and for HA. You only need to input really 2 parameters, which decides which type of configuration you want in the TigerGraph cluster. The partition factor determines whether you want to split your data into multiple data splits and then put them into the different machines. So the replication factor determines whether you want a highly available system. So here for HA system, you need to input 2. So this is the supported default data copies that we have for TigerGraph Cloud. And here is a screenshot for where it is, partition factor and replication factor. And just a high level for TigerGraph distributed cloud architecture. So in one TigerGraph Cloud account, you can have multiple clusters, TigerGraph clusters. And the cloud controller can really provision and have for different of the cluster, you can actually have different number of partitions. And some can have, replica of 2 to achieve HA. So when you have more than one partition in the system, you can have 2 replicas for HA system. Of course, you can have multiple partitions, but no HA. So in this case, replication factor is 1. If you look at this diagram, there's a multiple TigerGraph distributed cluster here, and the first one, there's 3 partitions and there's 2 replicas for each of the partitions. So it's a 6-node TigerGraph cluster. And the second one here is R is replica, so there's 2 replicas and 2 partitions for this data set. So it's a 4-node cluster. Again, I reiterate that we can actually, you don't really need a HA. If you don't need a HA system, you can just have a distributed TigerGraph, which your data set automatically split into the 3 copies, 3 partitions, and then you have 1 copy of the data. All right, let me just demo the distributed cluster provisioning. So it's already in the platform. Let me go here and go to our cloud again. Let's create a solution here. Let's say use a graph algorithm, community detection. Next. For having a distributed cluster, you need to use a paid tier. And let's choose a region, disk size. I'm just going to put a 2 partition cluster and keep the replication factor to be 1. Let's do next. Graph algo and community detection algorithm. Let's do input your TigerGraph initial password here and remember that because you need that. Graph algorithm distributed. Let's just make sure it doesn't G algorithm. All right, so here is the summary, right? Partition factor 2 and replication factor is 1. And these are all the information here, and also the price is also calculated. And let's just submit. All right, so this is will take a little bit time, probably like 10 minutes to provision the 2-node cluster. So to save time, I did already provision a 2x2. That's the earlier the in-database machine learning starter kit that I showed everyone. And you can see that, okay, it's a 2x2, partition factor is 2, and replication factor is 2. So the data is split into 2 copies, 2 machines, and then each of the partition also is replicated. So there's 2 copies of each of the partition, 4-node cluster. Let's just go to the Visual SDK again. And from Graph Studio, you can actually go to the admin portal. You can see, oh, there are 4 nodes in the cluster. So you can see a lot of the other stats here. All right. So this is a distributed cluster provisioning process. Let me go back to my slides again. So the second advanced feature I want to show is called GSQL Web Shell. So I kind of mentioned earlier that this is a very cool feature that we're including to make it even easier for advanced users to use more GSQL queries. And currently we're looking in 1 or 2 weeks, it will be added into the platform. So for the GSQL Web Shell, it is really a 1-click to our GSQL client. And you don't really need to download or install a remote GSQL client. And it's an interactive, command line shell interface through the web. And of course, like some of the advanced users, you can have more of the GSQL commands. So, and also write sequence of these commands as you like. So almost all of the GSQL commands are supported in the web shell, and except for changing the user passwords, because we're doing it through the admin portal, where I just showed you in the different TigerGraph solutions. Just going back to the basic TigerGraph database architecture. So this is a single server, and you can see that, okay, there is Graph Studio UI and different clients, GSQL clients. And normally in an on-prem installation, you can actually enter the GSQL shell through the Linux shell. But for the cloud environment, since we're not providing the Linux shell, so the GSQL shell can be accessed through the web shell that I just showed you. And in the cloud, this is a high level architecture here. And you can see that, okay, from the TigerGraph Cloud portal, you have 3 different ways to really interact with the database and the starter kits underneath. You can go through the Graph Studio and also the admin portal, as well as this new feature that's coming up really soon, GSQL Web Shell. This is a screenshot of how you can get access to the GSQL client web shell, and you will be able to enter the username, and you can do the enter the session time, the period. By default, we give 1 hour to your session, and each of the time we actually randomly provide a port to this GSQL web shell, and it's to ensure security. And you can only enter the GSQL web shell through the portal. Let me just show you quickly the demo machine that I have that showing how the GSQL web shell works. All right, let me go to this dev machine that I have. And this instance is already up. And you can see that, okay, we have one more admin operations, and you can actually go to the GSQL access and submit. Voila, you can get to a web shell for GSQL. Let me just enter my password again. Now you're at GSQL, and let's list this particular starter kits. Since it's prepackaged, we do have the user, movie, vertex type. If you remember one of the earlier demo that I showed, in database machine learning, and also the edge, and this graph is called a recommender. So yeah, you can issue a lot more GSQL commands here now. So this will be available in 1 or 2 weeks. All right. I think that actually ends all my demo. Just a high-level summary. We went through quite a few new features in TigerGraph Distributed Cloud. And we really encourage you to use TigerGraph Distributed Cloud. You can, there's no hardware. It's to buy and manage, and then it's very easy integration. Integrate with all the starter kits. Now it's 20 plus starter kits. Since there's a distributed feature, it's very easy to scale. Of course, it's flexible pricing, and you have different sizing options. It's definitely managed by experts. All of the TigerGraph experts are working on to maintain the TigerGraph system to be healthy, to have the automatic backup and updates, and also with the necessary security features and hardening. It's 24/7 maintenance and support. You can enter your support tickets right through the portal. All right, questions?
Hey, great job, Emma. That was smooth and seamless. You shared a lot with us, and I think you demonstrated extremely well how easy it is to use TigerGraph Cloud.
Yeah,
We
I
have a
was
few
surprised.
questions.
We actually did like 4 demos,
I
right?
know.
With
You
all of
shared a
our,
lot.
yeah.
So one of the questions we've had is, are all the demos that are all of the starter kits that you've been demoing a separate module, or do they come automatically with TigerGraph?
So on the TigerGraph Cloud, it's comes already with TigerGraph. So it's pre-packaged data set and graph schema, and also example queries. So if you go to the platform, you can use a free tier to play with any of these. So
Okay, great. And then same person that said, if you wanted to add data to the graph, is this easily done? If the data needs
yes,
to be
yes.
changed, does this take a long time?
No, you can definitely use, we have multiple ways now. Through the Graph Studio, you can use file upload or S3 upload. So, and now in a week or two, we have the GSQL client web shell. So you can leverage that to do data loading as well. So it's very easy. You can also use a blank TigerGraph instance there if you don't want to have the prepackaged use cases. So there is an option to have a empty TigerGraph cluster there. Just with the SDK and everything that you can do your own.
Okay, great. And what about writing my own queries?
Yes, you can go to the Graph Studio SDK and write the GSQL queries from Write Queries, or use the GSQL web shell in a week or two.
Another question is, when is the COVID-19 starter kit going to be available?
It is already available. Go to tgcloud.io. It's right there. So we packaged the South Korean data set that's publicly available from their CDC website. So
okay, great. Another question is, what kind of resources do you offer developers who are new to graph databases?
Oh, there's actually there's a lot of different ways, right? There's a developer forum, there's developer chat, and also we have office hours. Of course, there's a lot of documentations that's on our TigerGraph documentation website. And for starter kits, there's also more information. Yeah.
Okay, great. Another question is, how close is TigerGraph Cloud on Azure? How close to being ready?
It's actually pretty close. So we are kind of at the end of like testing phase. I would say come back next month or in June. Very likely we're already supporting Azure. But definitely, reach out to me if it's not there, and we can talk about the different ways of deploying TigerGraph on Azure. So we actually have already our marketplace images on Azure, and there's developer image there too. You can use the developer image for free to provision your account if you want. Yeah.
Okay, great. Another question is, can I have a distributed TigerGraph cluster with no HA setup?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So just, choose the partition to be the number you want. That's kind of governs what is a distributed cluster. And for the replication, just put one. Basically, you don't have another replica there for HA.
All right, cool. Another question is it possible to deploy TigerGraph on cloud or on-prem in a 3 or 2-tier architecture? The basis of this question is they want to avoid or minimize the attack footprint.
Yes, yeah, we definitely support that, and then you can develop applications using the REST endpoints. So it's a pretty common setup.
Okay, so another question is, with replication, Are the replicas readable to increase query throughput?
Yes. The replica is readable for increased throughput.
Okay, cool. Another question is, can I use the GSQL web shell in the free tier instances?
So currently it is an advanced feature. So you will have to, enter the payment option and also provision a non-free tier. However, we do provide the $25 free credits for when you register. So you can leverage that to just try it out,
Okay, and another question which pertains to the Visual Query Builder, which is in the Tiger 3.0 release. The person's asking, when will the Visual Query Builder functionality or capability be ready or available in TigerGraph Cloud?
So we are going to release 3.0 very soon from the engine side, like the on-prem version. So after that, it should take about 4 to 6 weeks for us to get it up and tested on the platform. So I would say probably it's pretty in the near future. Yeah. And when that happens, we'll do another series of cloud webinar.
Awesome. Okay, well, that's all the questions we have. So why don't we move forward to wrap this up, Emma, in the interest of time. So if you'll allow me, I'll do the honors. If you can just go back a couple of slides. One more. Yeah, perfect. So we are increasing the number of ways that you can get in touch with us. We encourage you to join our developer forum. Many of you are familiar with that forum, but please note that it has a different URL. We also encourage you to join our developer chat on Discord. And every Thursday at 11 o'clock Pacific time, we dedicate an hour to having one-on-one interactions with what we call our developer office hours. That's an opportunity to submit questions and have one of our subject matter experts answer it live. Next slide. Additionally, as we've talked about, of course, the whole emphasis of this webinar has been on TigerGraph Cloud. I hope we've aptly demonstrated that it's very easy to get started. Not only does it take just a few minutes, as Emma demonstrated several times, there's a free tier, free in perpetuity, and there are over 20 starter kits pre-populated with schema and data that make it very easy for you to get started and begin to dip your toe in the water. So really no reason for you not to immediately do that. As soon as you have free time later today, certainly later this week. We have our test drive online demos. You can also, if you choose to, if cloud is not your thing, you can download the developer edition. And we have a variety of scripts on GitHub to enable you to get started and begin to create your own environment, your own graph, and begin to uncover connections in the data that you would be able to otherwise. And last but not least, we do webinars every Wednesday, and our one next week at 8 o'clock in the morning, Wednesday, April 29th, is Managing Risk in Turbulent Economic Times with Graph Analytics. And what that will focus on is how the COVID-19 pandemic is wreaking havoc on the economy in a variety of different ways. There's huge risks associated with that, people defaulting on mortgages or small businesses defaulting on loans, and how Graph can be used to identify the risks and mitigate them. And then on the 30th, which is not a Wednesday, of course, it's a Thursday. So next week, Thursday, April 30th, the date is right, the day is wrong, the date is correct. We're doing a webinar with Data Science Central. And that is called Graph Algorithms Combined with Machine Learning, or Saving the World. And that should also be very interesting. So next slide, please, Emma. Your feedback is very welcome. We hope that you will reach out to us, either Emma or myself. We'd love to hear from you. Don't be shy. Or if you have a general comment, not specific to either of us, please feel free to send that to TigerGraph Cloud, tgcloud-feedback@tigergraph.com. So that brings us to the end of our webinar. As I mentioned at the top, perhaps like me, this pandemic means that you're busier than ever. So more than ever, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend it with us. We truly hope you found us productive. We truly hope that our enthusiasm for Graph has rubbed off on you, and hope that you will quite quickly begin to dip your toe in the water off with Graph using TigerGraph Cloud. And that really brings us to the end. Until next time, thank you for attending and stay safe.
Thank you. Bye.